If you're looking for another podcast to fuel your adventures, check out Camp Nowhere, a freeform audio journey into life off the beaten path. Hosted by Mac, a filmmaker, photographer, full-time traveler, and REI partner, Camp Nowhere features candid conversations, audio diaries, and immersive sounds from the road. On the show, she discusses how her experiences have taught her to navigate life's unexpected moments and thrive in the unknown. Camp Nowhere is for those who are passionate about the outdoors, travel, and the things you can learn about yourself along the way. Ready to dive in and embrace the unknown? Listen to Camp Nowhere today, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Oftentimes, I kind of conveniently forget about the really, really hard times and remember all of the glitz and glamour that comes with it. So I just remembered like, oh, I got second overall. I'm probably like pretty quick in these races. I should try again with another race.
In the last few years, Tara Dower has emerged as one of the fastest ultra runners in America. She's won multiple 50 and 100-mile races and set speed records on long-distance trails around the country. These routes are hundreds and thousands of miles, often crossing multiple states and mountain ranges. There's one trail in particular, though, that is always called to Tara, the Appalachian Trail, also known as the AT. It runs 2,200 miles from Georgia up to Maine. In 2024, Tara achieved a long-time goal when she beat the fastest known time for the AT by 13 hours. I'm Shelby Stanger, and this is Wild Ideas Worth Living, an REI Co-op Studios production presented by Capital One and the REI Co-op MasterCard. A few years ago, we interviewed a dentist from Belgium named Karel Sabe, who set the fastest known time for the Appalachian Trail in 2018. Karel beat the previous record holder by more than 4 days. Most people assumed that beating Karel's time would be nearly impossible. So when Tara broke his record last year, it was a big deal. Tara has always had an affinity for the Appalachian Trail. She thru-hiked it in 2019, and once she started ultra running, she knew that she wanted to return. Tara Dower, welcome to Wild Ideas Worth Living.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You completed the fastest known time of the Appalachian Trail, 40 days, 18 hours, and 5 minutes, beating the previous record set by Karel Sabe, who we interviewed, by 13 hours. How did it all feel? How has it felt since then? I mean, it's been a couple months and you've been on a whirlwind tour.
Yeah, no, it's been nearly 3 months now since I completed the trail. And like, recovery-wise, I feel great. Like I just did a 50K over the weekend and I feel incredible. I got second overall and got a PR. So I feel really good mentally and physically.
So you're always kind of outdoorsy growing up. Mm-hmm. How did you find ultra running?
So when I was in college, I mean, it started by watching a documentary about the Appalachian Trail. And that's kind of how this entire trail career is what I call it started, is watching this documentary and having that curiosity and that fascination with the trail and this like footpath that goes from Georgia to Maine. It's such a long footpath. So I had that curiosity. And so after I thru-hiked it in 2019, I realized my love for the trails. I realized my love for like these outdoor spaces and how I wanted to spend most of my time like out there. And so I was like, what can I do? Like, what's a hobby I can get into? And FKTs, or fastest known times / ultra running, came into my life. And pretty much ever since 2020, 2021, I've just been like on the trails, enjoying nature.
Okay, so you hiked the Appalachian Trail in 2019. It changed your life. Had you ever done a thru hike before, or was that like your first one?
Yeah, well, in 2017, I attempted to thru hike and had a panic attack 8 days in and had to get off the trail. I realized it was not how I wanted to experience the trail because I was suffering from some untreated anxiety and had this panic attack, and it really scared me. And at that time, I had told everybody that I was going to be a thru hiker. That was my goal, was to be a thru hiker of the Appalachian Trail. And that dream died so quickly, and it was not how I viewed this experience. Like, I built it up in my head so much by the time like I failed, it was just like so devastating.
Had you done thru hiking before?
No, I had, done like section hikes, done like 60 miles with some friends. I did like a 40-mile section hike with my mom. It was always just, a couple days out there, but it was never like any thru hiking.
So what made you want to just do this whole thing?
Yeah, well, in 2013, when I learned about the trail, I just wanted to be a thru hiker and not a section hiker. I wanted to complete this thing in one fell swoop. And I am somebody who is very challenge oriented. And so a thru hike, being out there for 5 to 7 months, seemed like a big challenge. And it also seemed like a really cool adventure. Like it came to a point where it was more about telling people that I was a thru hiker. And that's why I think in 2017 I failed, because it was no longer about the journey. It had become, I want to complete this challenge. I want that check mark. I want to tell people I'm a thru hiker. And I lost sight of why I was out there in the first place, which was to enjoy the journey, enjoy the community and the culture of that trail.
Why do you think you had that panic attack? Because that's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, it was something I had no clue my anxiety was that intense. So I knew I had anxiety. Like it's a family. My parents struggle with anxiety. It's very much part of our lives. But I thought, from the experience I've had section hiking, I thought this would be just such a neat adventure. Like I wouldn't feel that anxiety. I got out there and the first couple days was okay. But as I kept going, I started missing family more often. And then I felt this like sense of dread and the sense of doom that I couldn't quite put my finger on. I just felt like I couldn't calm down. There wasn't like I was feeling unsafe or was like I was uncomfortable. I was physically okay. Mentally, I couldn't put a finger on why I was feeling like this sense of dread and doom. So by the time like on that 8th morning when I woke up in my tent, I think I had just like built up all this anxiety in my body. And I woke up and didn't know what was happening at first, but I had chest pains. I had a migraine. I felt like something was sitting on my chest, honestly. And I felt like I couldn't breathe. I was hyperventilating. And it was all of a sudden, as soon as I woke up. So I think all that anxiety just built up in me, and then this panic attack happened. And I didn't understand what a panic attack was at the time, this tunnel vision, this dread and doom. And I went to the doctor once I got home, and he was like, yeah, that was a panic attack.
Yeah, that must have been terrifying.
So I can't put my finger on like what exactly caused it. It was just this sense of dread, and it was not how I wanted to experience the trail, which I've talked about was like kind of the most important thing in my life at the time. So I think I really had to, over, a couple years, it wasn't perfect, after 2017 when I worked on my anxiety and went back in 2019, my anxiety wasn't perfect. And I still wasn't like okay. But I knew my triggers and I knew what to focus on, my motivations. And over time, I have found a lot of solace in nature. And now at this point in my life, I feel like that is the most at peace I am when I'm in nature and on trails.
When Tara returned to the Appalachian Trail in 2019, she'd learned a number of tools to help her manage her anxiety. She used techniques like focusing on the ground under her feet or squeezing gravel in her hand to help her connect with the present moment. With these tools, she was able to complete the entire 2,190-mile thru hike in 2019, which was a deeply rewarding experience. Tara found that spending time in the old Appalachian Mountains, surrounded by nature, was both grounding and transformative. Along the way, she also met other thru hikers who have become some of her closest friends. Just out of curiosity, what's your trail name?
Candy Mama.
It all makes sense now. Tell me how you got the name. When did you get it?
I think it was about a month into the thru hike. I would just eat a lot of candy. Airheads was my candy of choice. And I just mommed everyone too. Like, oh, you're tired? You probably have Lyme's disease. Do you have any ticks on you? Like, have you eaten today? Have you drank? And honestly, it was kind of annoying. Like, looking back, I'm like, I would hate somebody who's like up my butt all the time. But like for the candy, I went back to the dentist after completing the trail and I had 6 cavities.
Oh no.
Yeah. So that's how much candy I ate. Just so much.
Tara's time on the trail solidified her love for endurance adventures. After thru hiking the AT, Tara became a backpacking guide and her boss introduced her to ultra running and fastest known times, or FKTs. In 2020, she decided to attempt an FKT on the Mountains to Sea Trail, which spans the entire state of North Carolina. Tara ended up beating the previous record holder and realized that she could compete with some seriously talented athletes. With this new confidence, Tara began to enter ultramarathons while continuing to break speed records on trails around the country. In 2022, she set the FKT for the Benton-MacKaye Trail, which travels through Georgia, Tennessee, and North Carolina. That run inspired her next wild idea.
Benton-MacKaye was like the father of the Appalachian Trail. So I set the fastest known time on this 289-mile Benton-MacKaye Trail. And when I finished, it was like 4 days and change. And I set the overall record and I thought to myself, I feel like okay, like I'm tired and I'm hungry and I could probably like sleep for days. But if I had to keep going, I could probably keep going. And that's where the idea sparked. And so I just had like this desire to do something big, this big adventure like the Appalachian Trail. And I knew from my career being an ultra athlete, like I was developing my body to get to that point. I also felt like the stars were aligning. I was meeting these people in this Appalachian Trail FKT community. I was becoming friends and creating relationships with these people who are very involved with this FKT. And it was like, it almost seemed like the stars were aligning. Like my body was developing in a way that could bring me down these trails quickly. And I was making friends with people who are involved in that community. And it almost just seemed like the trail was calling me back.
Here's something cool. REI Co-op members who use their REI Co-op MasterCard earn even more. Card members earn 5% in card rewards on all REI purchases. Add that to your 10% Co-op member rewards on full price purchases, and that's 15% in total REI rewards. My favorite part? You can redeem rewards as you earn them on things you'll love. I personally have my eye on a new tent, a hiking backpack, and of course, a new cooler for my adventures this summer. Already a card member? Start shopping today. Don't have a card? See if you're pre-approved for the REI Co-op MasterCard with no risk to your credit score. To learn more about the REI Co-op MasterCard program, go to rei.com/MasterCard-podcast. That's rei.com/MasterCard-podcast. Terms apply. Hey, Wild Idea listeners, do you ever find yourself craving a quick, delicious energy boost while on the trail? I definitely do. That's why I'm stoked about Honey Stinger, the inventor of the energy waffle and their brand new peanut butter flavors. They have 3 new flavors available to help power your next outdoor adventure: peanut butter chocolate, and peanut butter strawberry, which reminds me of a classic peanut butter and jelly sandwich. If you haven't tried Honey Stinger, I'm telling you, now is the time. They're nutritionist approved for sport, they're pocket-sized and portable, and they're easy to digest, making them the ideal fuel for any outdoor adventure. Grab your honey stingers and be sure to try their brand new peanut butter flavors at your local REI or at rei.com. See you on the trail. Over the last 5 years, Tara Dower has become a well-known ultramarathoner and trail runner. She's won countless races and holds the fastest known times for routes all over the U.S. In 2024, Tara hit the headlines again for completing the fastest known time for the Appalachian Trail, a goal that she'd been hoping to achieve for over 2 years. Carl Sabe held the previous record, and Tara studied his approach carefully. Preparing for the FKT attempt took a lot of work, and luckily, Tara had plenty of help. Her friend and fellow thru-hiker Rascal helped with logistics, her mom was in charge of food, and pacers kept her company on the trail. So, walk us through the logistics. Tell me what day you started, what time you would start each day, and then let's go through a day.
Yeah, well, typically I would wake up at 3 a.m. and Rascal and I slept together pretty much the entire FKT. So we had a van and we also had a tent. Those were 2 sleeping situations. But I'd wake up at 3 a.m. Rascal would hand feed me because I had to prepare my feet. I would put Leukotape on my feet. I'd put my shoes on. That usually took a long time because the feet hurt pretty bad.
What do you mean?
Well, there was a lot of sores and blisters, and there's 2 distinct holes in my feet that we just filled with Neosporin, hoping that they didn't start to get infected. But yeah, my feet were in a lot of pain.
So Rascal would hand spoon feed you. What would she feed you?
Yeah, we would have pastries or oatmeal, really anything that was going to get me that 500 calories for breakfast. So I would put the Leukotape on. I would pretty much get going by 3:30 a.m. And I'd meet the crew about 6 to 7 times a day. And I would drink a protein shake and have a little meal with them every time I saw them at a road crossing. And then I would pretty much stay moving for 17 and a half hours on average a day, get to the van or get to the tent at night and be hand fed again, wash my feet, and then get into bed. And something I actually learned from several podcasts Carl Sabe did is that he mentioned that you want to stay as close to an average amount of miles as possible. So I wanted to stay as close to that 54 mile per day average as possible. So what that looked like is having Rascal and JP hike up camping gear to wherever we wanted to stop for that night and setting up camp. And I would just walk in to the camp and they would clean my feet, hand feed me, and I'd go to bed in the tent. So 18 out of the 40 days I was sleeping in the tent.
And you only showered 3 times the whole time?
I only showered 3 times. That's correct.
So did you use baby wipes?
Well, no, I actually didn't wash my body that often. Only those 3 times that I washed my actual body. But every day I would wash my feet at least once during the day. And I would wash it with soap and, get new socks, clean socks on and new shoes on. But at night, I would have somebody else cleaning my feet. So we'd do a more thorough cleaning, washing with antibacterial soap. And then we'd powder the feet or put an ointment on the feet. I'm definitely a student of Carl Sabe. So when he said how important foot care was, I really took that to heart. And knowing how my feet looked when I was taking really good care of them during this FKT, I can't imagine what they would look like if I wasn't taking as good care of them. So I was cleaning my feet pretty much twice a day, but my body, it didn't really matter. I was going to be dirty and smelly anyways, so it didn't matter how often I cleaned my body or my hair.
And how did you entertain yourself during 50 miles a day?
I don't know. I was incredibly entertained and content being out there. I think a lot of people think that this FKT was so hard and arduous, and I was always tired and injured, but that couldn't be further from the truth. I really enjoy the Appalachian Trail. I enjoy those mountains. So oftentimes I was just so happy to be out there among nature and hanging out with other people. Like, I'd have pacers with me, people who would run with me, hold my food and water, and we would tell stories and talk, and I would listen to music. So I had a great time out there.
This is so refreshing. I've interviewed a lot of people who've been motivated by pain. But lately, some of the most successful people I've interviewed, and I'll give Courtney Dauwalter as an example.
Oh, love her.
They're motivated, like you are, by joy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a paradigm shift between the old way of like no pain, no gain, to now how athletes are achieving such great success, like you. And it's really refreshing. So I'm getting like very heartwarming sensations listening to your story. And I'm so glad that it was joyful and that you weren't in pain and that it was just like fun. But I did read this like fun fact that, some of your teammates told you stories, you sang some songs to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, there was so much storytelling on the trail. Oftentimes I didn't want to talk. I would just want to listen. So I'd ask pacers who came in to tell stories or to talk about maybe their day or the day before. What's going on in the world? Tell me what is happening. Like, I just wanted to get in the know. So there's a lot of storytelling. There was a lot of singing. So I listened to 2 soundtracks in particular. It was La La Land and Moulin Rouge. And I listened to those so often, and they worked so well to keep me entertained, but also awake. I would sing along with these soundtracks. And by the end of the FKT, it kind of became this jail because that was the only thing that was working to keep me awake. And I was like, I don't really want to sing this for the 100th time, but here we are. It's going to work.
In addition to her core support team, Tara also received a lot of encouragement and assistance from the thru hiking and trail running communities. A total of 40 people came out to the trail to help Tara with the FKT, and about half of them were total strangers she'd connected with on the internet. People saw that Tara had the potential to break this record, and they wanted to help her to make it happen. Was there any random moments on the trail? I know when Alex Honnold climbed El Cap, someone ran out dressed as a unicorn. Did you have any trail magic or weirdness?
There was a lot of trail magic. I mean, we would have people come out and bring, I had a list of foods on my website of foods that me and the crew love to eat. We had somebody buy every single thing on that list, $500 worth of groceries, and bring all of these groceries out to us. We didn't even ask this person to do it. They just showed up with all of these foods. They showed up with brownies their wife made. It was incredible. There was also this point, there was this guy in New Jersey who came out to pace me 2 days in a row. And the first day I was like, oh, I could really use some cookies, good chocolate chip homemade cookies. And he was like, bet. And the next day his wife showed up with homemade cookies. They were the best.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love trail magic.
Yeah, there was a lot of people that just came out from the internet, that I met through social media. I put out a call out there to people on my Instagram, if you're interested in pacing or coming out to help in any way, just sign up on this call sheet and we'll call you if we need you. And people knew my tracking information. There's public tracking, so people could find me on the trail or find me at road crossings and just come to pace for a section or a couple days.
It's cool how public you are, and yet you're not concerned about safety.
Yeah, well, it has taken a long time to get to that point to where I felt comfortable putting my tracking information out there. I felt so comfortable because I did have so many people who I knew personally that were also out there with me. And I also know I can run faster than most people if I needed to. But yeah, I created a lot of deep relationships with these random people, though. Like, there was a lot of moments, especially in the White Mountains, where I met my pacer. She was a mutual friend, Maya, and we went through the toughest section on the Appalachian Trail together in the worst weather. And she was just, I met her that day and I cried so much in front of her, and she was so compassionate. And we just have that now. We have that relationship now. We went through a really hard time together, and she paced the next day. She wasn't tired of me. She came back the next day and paced me again. So I'm really thankful for that.
What was that awful weather? Like, what was the worst weather you had?
Oh my gosh, it was just raining so much. And in the White Mountains, where it's just very rocky and the rocks get really slick, it's dangerous to go quick on those trails with such slick rocks. There's like these mud bridges and just mud pits. And you have to navigate these mud pits. I fell in one of the mud pits, mud splashing on my face, and I just disassociated after that point. I mean, it gets dark and you're running through the rain and it's cold and it's wet. At this point, I had been cold and wet for like 6-7 days straight. I hadn't seen the sun for more than 4 minutes.
Yeah, it sounds miserable.
Yeah, it was miserable.
Was there any parts where you doubted yourself and you're like, I don't think I'm going to do this?
Oh, yeah. I didn't know I was going to set the FKT until about 3 miles to the end. I didn't believe it was possible until that point. And then when I got to nearly the end, I was like, wow, this is exciting. This is going to happen. Because, I mean, the thinking there was, with racing, it's not over until it's over. Like, I've been passed with a 1/4 mile left in a 50K race. So, like, anything could happen during these races or during these FKTs. I fell very often. I fell so violently that I was so nervous I was going to dislocate a shoulder or break a kneecap, and then I wouldn't be able to finish. And that was a reality up until those last 3 miles. Once I got to those last 3 miles, I was like, at least I can like crawl to the end and have enough time to finish. But before that, I just was like, I was so sure it wasn't going to happen.
God willing, incident, barring and injury, barring. Hopefully make it there by 11 or 12 p.m. which is late, but finish the Sobo hike. That's exciting. Let's do it.
Yes, Tara!
Despite Tara's disbelief, she reached the finish line of the Appalachian Trail on September 21st, 2024, after running for 40 days, 18 hours, and 6 minutes. Tara has created a video series about her record-breaking FKT on her YouTube channel, Tara Treks. That's TARATREKS. Tara's run also raised $100,000 for the national nonprofit Girls on the Run. You can learn more about that on her Instagram at tara.dower. That's TARA.DOWER. Wild Ideas Worth Living is part of the REI Podcast Network. It's hosted by me, Shelby Stanger, produced by Annie Fassler, Sylvia Thomas, and Sam Pierce-Nitzberg of Puddle Creative. Our senior producers are Jenny Barber and Hannah Boyd. Our executive producers are Paolo Motola and Joe Crosby. As always, we love it when you follow the show, take time to rate it, and write a review wherever you listen. And remember, some of the best adventures happen when you follow your wildest ideas.